Good evening, viewers, and warm welcome back to Startup Speaks. Now, this particular episode is being brought to you jointly by the Department of Information Technology and Electronics, the Government of West Bengal, and the NASSCOM 10,000 Startups. Now, this wouldn't have been possible without the generous support and involvement of the NASSCOM Industry Partnership Program, or NIPP, and of course, our broadcast partner, Proho.in. Now, viewers, you would recall that today is actually the second of a three-part series, which is based on the NIPP Retail Tech Challenge that has recently been concluded. And this particular competition involved way more than 220 applications, from which finally a list of 25 startups were chosen and selected, and eventually 9 winners. And today we have three of the stars from that competition. So I'll introduce them very briefly. First up, Madhusudan Atmakuri, who's the CTO and co-founder at Applicate AI. With him, we have Nikhil Chaudhary, who's the Director of Marketing at BeatRoute. And last but not the least, we have Puneet B Tech, who's the founder of Fabric. So a very warm welcome to all three of you. Now, Madhusudan, why don't
Thank you, Avik.
Madhusudan, why don't I start by asking you to share with us and our viewers your entrepreneurial journey, and then to tell us what inspired you to take up this new venture.
Sure. So, my background is, mostly technical. I've, played different technical roles in different organizations. And most recently, before starting Applicate, I was working in Avaya at a senior management position. And I know Ranjit, who's the CEO and co-founder of Applicate. So I know Ranjit long back. I mean, from my college days. We were not really in touch for maybe around 7 to 8 years before starting Applicate, but we kept talking, we kept bouncing ideas, and I believe both of us were at a stage where we really wanted to do something of our own. We felt that the corporate journey obviously has its merits, but both of us really were at that stage where we wanted to just jump in and do our own thing. We bounced off a few ideas, and finally in 2014 we decided to take the plunge. Ranjit is he was vice president in Coca-Cola, so he brings in a lot of domain knowledge around sales. And therefore we thought that the vision really was to become the best sales tech company globally, right? And that was the vision, and that is how we started off. Full of challenges, it's been a great journey. It's been extremely rewarding, I can say that now. But yeah, that's a brief background.
Right. And how is your own background? Because you've got close to, I think, 18, 19 plus years of overall experience, right? So how has that overall expertise, where you were working for so many of the other organizations and coming up the ranks, right, helped to shape your personal ethos when you established Applicate together with them?
So right now I have more than 20 years of experience, but when I started Applicate, you're right, maybe 16, 17 years of experience in varied roles. I started off as a a software developer, went on to become a lead and an architect and so on and so forth, and into management as well. And I would like to say that whatever I did. The past 4 or 5 years have been extremely humbling in terms of what we had to do. But I feel my experience overall as a technology person, right from choosing technologies to how to make the entire software scalable, how to make sure that we are able to deploy the solution globally, and not just that, how to reach out to my network to get some really good guys into Applicate. I think all of that really mattered. And at the same time, over the past 4 or 5 years, I've also had to unlearn a lot of things. A lot of things which I used to do in my earlier organizations. Bigger organizations don't necessarily fit into a startup, a startup culture. So it's been extremely rewarding. A lot of things have helped me, and I also had to unlearn a few things, and I think overall, it's turned out well.
Great. So we'll be back for more questions in in a minute. In the meantime, Nikhil, why don't I move to you and ask you to share with us your entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. So I am very young in my career. I think I've been working for 7 or 8 years only. I started working when I was in college itself. I used to do some freelance gigs. I would find some marketing assignments somewhere if I could do any kind of marketing, field marketing, online marketing, whatever I could do. Though my degree was in bioinformatics, but I was more interested in just selling or marketing. So I started an event startup with my college buddies, and for I think I ran it for 3 years. It was doing well, but I had no idea what I was really doing there. So in the end, I left it. Then I launched another startup. I am bitten by the startup bug. So I launched another startup. It was into commodity trading or import, export, doing a lot of things. And I enjoyed it for some days, but then I felt like
So
I was,
when was this? Which year was this?
I think this would have been 2017, 18 when
Okay.
I went to the second startup.
Okay.
And I ran it for around 2 years, but I felt like I was not enjoying it. So I just shut it down. And then I got in touch with Vinay, who is a co founder for BeatRoute. I just noticed something on his website someday and I said, look, you guys are doing some things right, but a lot of things in your marketing are not good. So we hit it off there. We spoke, and then I said, look, I'm trying to find a job in a very early stage kind of startup where I can learn things because I have not been, I have not taken any formal training or anything. I've just been trying different things. So I joined BeatRoute in early 2019. So it's almost about to be 3 years for me here. I've been taking bigger and bigger responsibility at BeatRoute. Right now, I'm leading marketing globally and the partnership channel for BeatRoute. When it comes to BeatRoute, it was started by Vinay and another co-founder Vivek in 2014. So these guys run a SAP consulting firm, and obviously a lot of their customers would have come to them and said, "Look, you are helping us with a lot of things about the resource management, but once the product is made, we need to take it to the market." So they created this simple application that would help them take care of the beat planning or route management, and that's how they named it BeatRoute. So over the last 6 or 7 years, they have been adding more and more features. Obviously, it's a customer-driven product innovation that we've been following. Customers will keep coming up with new processes, new challenges. The market itself keeps changing. The route to market for companies has been changing. So they would request new features or new extensions, and we would keep building. What we really want to do, honestly, if I want to be very precise, we want to be the go-to system for CPG enterprises worldwide when it comes to running their go-to-market or route-to-market operations. So, obviously, subsequent to this, I would talk about what all we are doing, but we are really trying to do in more detail. But I think this should suffice as a quick introduction.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And great to meet. We'll now go over to Puneet. Puneet, why don't you share with us your entrepreneurial journey and tell us also what inspired you to take up fabric as a venture?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Avik, firstly, for having me. My association with NASCOM goes past for the last 4 years, and it's been really fruitful. A quick background about myself. I have about 11 years of experience, so between Nikhil and Madhu, and it's been tech startups all in all for the last 9 to 10 years. I've been a part of 4 startups, two as a founder. The other two, I was either an early stage employee or late stage employee. I started Fabric in the beginning of 2018. My journey has been, like Madhu mentioned, a lot of learning and a lot of unlearning. Uh, a lot of unlearning and day-to-day learning, to be honest. Primarily because as startups, we face new challenges every day, and every day we fail multiple times. And so there's a fair bit of unlearning and learning. Um, in terms of Fabric, we started as an augmented reality, virtual reality company. We still are there, but it's evolved from what it was when we started. Fortunately, my earlier startup experiences, both in B2B and B2C, helped me figure out what works for us, and it took us a fair bit of time before we got our act together. It took us a year and a half, but ultimately we are at the stage where we work with businesses, helping them transition into something that is more visual in nature, using augmented reality and virtual reality. Oh, the last point. For the last 4 to 5 years, it's been both ups and downs, especially through the pandemic. But fortunately, we've survived, and we've built a strong team to scale Fabric going forward.
That's great, Puneet. We'll be talking definitely in more detail about your experience during the pandemic and how you've been able to come out stronger through that. Before that, Puneet, one last question. What would you, because you said a lot of learning and unlearning, sometimes several times in the course of a day or a week. What's been your biggest or one of your biggest unlearnings that you had to do in the last 4 or 5 years? If you can share with the viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, the biggest learning as well as an unlearning is it's. I'd say that two things, right? Like Jeff Bezos says, it's always day one. That's absolutely true. And I think I think what Lionel Messi said. It's been it took 10 years to become an overnight success. That's absolutely true too. But in my case, at least, the time and the effort that you need to hit a milestone is always much more than what you anticipate, and that's been true time and again. Every day we realize, be it with customers, be it with hiring, be it with a specific activity that I'm doing just right now. I know it will take more time and or more effort or a different approach. There's always something new to do every day. That's a constant learning, and that's exciting as well as a bit intimidating, because you constantly realize that you need to up your game every day.
Great. I'm sure that's very valuable advice to everyone, particularly wannabe startup founders, who are tuning into this particular program. So Madhusudan, we'll go back to you. And now we heard from you a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. Now we want to get into the meat of it, of Applicate AI, right? I mean, right up front, if one goes to your LinkedIn profile or one looks at the website of Applicate, one of the big things that you have going for you is the AI-driven sales bot, right? Which I believe is called Selena. And what you also say there is that it's a self-learning machine, and your aim is to make it the world's best sales expert, something like that, right?
Absolutely.
So walk us through this particular process, through this vision, and what really differentiates you from others in a similar kind of a domain who are playing the same game.
Sure. So, I think, when we started this journey, right? I mean, as I said, we wanted to be the world's best sales tech company. And, we rolled out a solution and we were doing pretty well. But then we realized that, as an organization, our core team has a lot of domain expertise. Now, how do we, transfer this domain expertise into our software? How do we make, the software self-learning? Now, what really happens is that sales, any sales company, any CPG or any FMCG company has a lot of data. If you look at some of these big companies, they would have trillions of rows of data, and it is not possible for any human to actually sift through this data and figure out all the insights. It is humanly impossible. So there, we thought that why not use machine learning to go through this data uh, cull out all the insights and present these insights in a manner which the salesperson would be able to do. Why not give him recommendations? Why not help the supervisor set some targets for the salesperson? Why not tell the salesperson where to go? Why not tell the retailer what to buy? There are so many use cases. And the data keeps changing. We've seen this pandemic. The entire buying behavior has changed. The behavior changes during festivals, the behavior changes after the festivals. It is very difficult for anyone to look at the data and make sure that they are giving the right kind of supervision to any salesperson. So that is where we thought that we already have all this data. So why not use machine learning to make our software so intelligent that it would be able to do all this without any human intervention. And it is self learning because especially with all this data, whenever it keeps changing, the machine learning algorithm would keep getting trained, and the algorithm becomes smarter and smarter. We can check the accuracy levels and so on and so forth. But purely as a tool to the salesperson, the supervisor, to the general managers or the CXOs, I think it is a fabulous tool. And you talked about how it is different from some of the others. We've seen a lot of other tools into analytics, or we've seen a lot of machine learning tools which do some of these use cases. But the way we bring everything together into the same software, my solution can help the salesperson do their daily work based on these machine learning insights. It can help the retailer take orders based on these insights, and it can bring all this up and present a very good insight related tool to the CXOs, for example. I've not seen this in any other tool. So yeah.
Mhm. So when you're talking about insights and helping the supervisors, right? I'm just trying to think of a use case. So typically in large organizations, this is typically one of the problems that people face is that the funnel is fairly large and amorphous, and it takes quite a lot of time and effort, iterations to actually qualify the leads. And you suddenly realize, your number of qualified leads is actually quite small compared to the overall spreadsheet. And only then you've already lost quite a bit of time and effort, and only then can people really pursue those qualified leads, right? So does your tool help in sort of crystallizing that and qualifying leads, or giving more insights around what would be better to sort of chase as opposed to others?
Not really. So this is more of a CRM use case where you're talking about leads and how to convert those leads. I am talking more from a salesperson, feet on the street kind of a guy who goes to different outlets and takes orders and takes stock, returns a lot of SKUs, and then goes back to his company and says that, okay, these are the orders. And there is a whole hierarchy of salesperson, a supervisor. So I'm talking about these use cases where the supervisors, right from setting the targets for these salespeople, right from telling what is it that they need to do. They have a big gate meeting every morning where they decide how they should target the market today. So this is the scenario that our solution works into. And then we also help connect the retailers directly. That is again a huge market for us, where largely a lot of retailers are still unconnected. Maybe only a fraction of percentage would have been connected. So I think we've made great progress over the past couple of years, where we've started connecting these retailers directly to the organizations without the need of the salespeople actually visiting these retailers. So these are the scenarios that our software works in.
Right. So in that last one, you've actually helped save some conversations and visits and trips and so forth, right? So that is then the
Absolutely,
caption.
absolutely. So not just that, I mean, it also helps increase the span of control for the supervisor. So if the supervisor is able to supervise, let's say, 8 or 10 people, with the help of this tool, So we don't claim to eliminate the salespeople. There is a human touch which is always required, but we really help the supervisor focus on the right things, increase the span of control, reduce the cost for the organization, and also give a lot of freedom and independence to the retailer, where he can now directly be in touch with the organization, not via some salesperson. Yeah.
Right. And what's the pricing strategy? How have you priced the product?
So we are a SaaS organization. The pricing is generally it depends on what kind of modules an organization takes up. We have different modules for a salesperson, for a supervisor, for an analyst, for a coach. And the pricing actually depends on what kind of modules the organization takes up, and it is like any SaaS based pricing, which is per user, per month, or per year, kind of a deal.
Okay, great. Thanks, Madhusudan. We'll be back again for more questions. Nikhil, in the meantime, let me go on to you and ask you to tell us a little bit more in depth about BeatRoute. So, in particular, I'm very interested to know, because there are certain metrics that you have published, right? So organizations or companies that have used BeatRoute, within a few months of using that, right, they've been able to achieve up to as high as 50% more sales productivity, or 30% better channel throughput, or maybe even 20 to 30% higher sales per customer or per store, right? So before we get to the final results, right, which are these fab matrices that you've published, how do you actually operate that, right? So how does it really work on the ground? Give us some examples.
Uh, cool. So, like I said earlier, we started as a sales team focused app or a software. And with time, we realized something, that it's not necessarily enough to just digitize the sales reps or their managers or their supervisors. But FMCG or consumer goods distribution involves an entire ecosystem. There are multiple stakeholders. There are the sales teams, there are the channel partners or distributors, and there are the retailers, kirana shop owners, modern trade retail stores themselves. Sometimes the B2B customers are part of the ecosystem. So we created a platform, an entire platform that brings all of these stakeholders on a common platform. So your sales team uses BeatRoute, your distributors use BeatRoute, your retailers use BeatRoute, your B2B customers or Horeca customers use BeatRoute, and you utilize all of their capacity and their capabilities to achieve your business goals. So we don't position ourselves as just a CRM or just an SFA. We call ourselves a CRM SFA. It has the capabilities of Salesforce automation as well as relationship management with all of your stakeholders in the distribution. The key USP for us is that we don't just stop at the digitization or automation or even data analytics, because what we experienced when we digitized everything, and you might recall that a few years back there was a lot of focus on GPS tracking the sales reps, knowing where they were going, what they were doing, right? So we did that, but even after that a lot of companies were coming to us and saying that, look, I deployed all of that, I saved some of the cost, but there is no direct business impact. I wanted to have some agenda this year. I wanted to, or our business wanted to expand into this territory efficiently, or have higher ticket size at retail stores. But just tracking does not lead to that. So we introduced some AI capabilities, data analytics. We churned a lot of data, tried to find insights. And even after that, the impact was not as high as we would have wanted. So what we did as a next step of our evolution, we created a goal-driven sales approach. So this is a mechanism within the platform wherein when a customer comes on board BeatRoute, we map all of their business goals. So a customer might come to us and say, look, we are very strong in North India, but we want to expand in South India, and these are the territories. So they define that as a goal within the platform. Or they might say that we want to use our schemes or promotions as a key growth lever. Or they might say that we are selling very well in Jakarta, but we want to sell in the rest of the Indonesia. So they define these business goals within the platform, and then there's a whole tech-based mechanism. So the system nudges the sales reps, the distributors, and the retailers towards achieving those goals for the brand. So there's gamification, there's intelligence, and we create this whole step-by-step process so that the businesses actually see what they want to see as a result. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is while many of the others, right, the also rans are just looking at making this a digitized experience. How can I make
Yeah.
this entire thing digital, online, cloud-based, user-friendly? You've gone way beyond that. So you've used AI. And what I also heard in terms of the goals, because my goals will be different from Puneet's goals, different from Madhu's goals, each of us will be able to. So there's a great degree of configurability. So I can, within the platform, I can go and configure that ye mera goal hai, ye unka goal hai, and I'll be able to see according to my goals, and then consolidate all of that stuff across the organization, which is great.
Definitely.
Yeah. So great. Puneet, we'll come to you now to tell us more about Fabric, the entire concept of Fabric and what it proposes, and also with specific sort of use cases and examples for industries or sectors, because it's all eventually all around maintenance and repairing and reducing the downtime and reducing the total cost of ownership. So how does Fabric go about it?
Yeah, so typically I start with an example, right? So we all drive cars. When you buy a brand new car, you get a fat booklet that is the user manual. That is in all of our dashboards. No one has seen it beyond the 3 free services, right? It has all the information about the car, but no one really looks at it. Now, that is what we want to reimagine. So at Fabric, what we do is, the entire content in the manual, we make it an interactive 3D experience. So in effect, let us say you want to know how your sunroof opens. So instead of opening the manual, trying to find it, you use Fabric, and it basically says, hey, look, here is your car, here is the sunroof, this is the button you press and opens. It's a very simple example, but that's how it works. So not only an FAQ, you can also do troubleshooting, right? And this is a luxury product, which is it's basically a B2B2C customer experience. So now I'll just extend this a little more. Now for the automaker who previously did not have eyeballs on a service manual, now suddenly has an interactive direct connect with the customer, versus working with dealerships to go to the customer, but also now they have a direct brand connect with customers, and they can upsell, cross-sell, provide services, provide products to the end customer, right? So this opens a new revenue channel. Now, this is while a luxury retail experience, I can replace the car with an aircraft cockpit, with a transformer, with any complex product, process, or a system, so that people can visualize how it works, how you collaborate with people, how you troubleshoot, how do you keep the whole thing running with lesser downtime, more efficiency, lesser errors. So that is where people are seeing a lot of value, especially for customers who have a lot of these documents. Think of a transformer or an aircraft, right? It runs for 30, 40, 50 years. So the assets that are powering our homes today run transformers that are 30 years old, right? The guy who's designed the transformer has retired. So the knowledge is retired with him. He used to make notes in his diary and has taken it with him, right? So that is one of the primary challenges that customers find value in.
Great. And tell us a little bit more. I mean, when we go into individual sort of sectors or industries, so when we're talking about downtime, right? The degree of urgency or even the kind of risk from a safety and health kind of an occupational hazard is very different across. So in auto manufacture would be one. If it's an let's say offshore oil rig which is using Fabric, that will be another. Then you have a steel plant, right, which is another, right? So to what extent does Fabric help in this sort of customizing or tailoring to the needs of the specific industry and the sector?
Absolutely. So those are very valid examples, right? So, for example, in the oil and gas sector, or let's say energy itself in general, they work with a lot of equipment. These assets last a really long time. The cost of downtime is really high. For example, the cost of downtime of a critical asset is more expensive than the cost of the asset itself, right? So when you look at it from that angle, you want to reduce the downtime. And today, there's a lot of activities that happen manually. For example, in the energy sector, there are folks who walk around in a power plant, solar power plant, for example, looking at each and every asset to measure if it is running. Right? They go physically check if it is running, try to figure out what is wrong if it is not, then go back to the HQ or to the maintenance office, try to capture, take the right tools, go to the field and do the job. And this is solar power plant where the sun is beating down, it's 40 degrees Celsius, right? And most power plants, energy sectors, oil rigs are in remote hostile environments where safety, of course, is a natural challenge. If it's 50 degrees Celsius, you can't be out in the sun for more than 15 minutes without dehydrating. So that is where we are able to visualize the entire facility, the entire individual asset, try to monitor what is wrong, visualize it, and give the guy on the ground the right steps to follow when an asset is broken down. And you take these tools, do this job, it'll take you 15 minutes, your asset will be up and running. Do it at this time, right? So that is where it kind of overall helps the productivity increase, reduces the risk of downtime, and also improves the safety of the entire environment.
Great. So, that's where the troubleshooting part of it, component of it, becomes absolutely critical, right?
That's right. That's right. It's actually quite critical, and that's the value. If you're able to make the knowledge of troubleshooting available in a visual format, people can do their jobs better, quicker, efficiently in lesser time.
Exactly. Great. Because that's when you've really taken it to the next level, right? One is to have an interactive service manual where I know, okay, if this breaks down, then I do that. But when I'm actually in the heat of the moment, in that situation, in the midst of that crisis, if I have that opportunity to get an interactive troubleshooting which tells me, and then I get the benefit of that. So that's really what makes a big
Absolutely, absolutely. We've actually taken it a step further, where not only are you looking at the asset and you're getting instructions, you
Mhm.
follow instructions. You're stuck. You call the expert. You don't schedule it, for 2 weeks later, and
Right.
you schedule a visit to the site. None of those things. You call the expert. The expert is available right away, and you use augmented reality to kind of write on the screen and figure it out.
So that experience itself is real time, right? So
That's right.
there are
All of it is real. That's
brilliant.
right.
Great. Madhusudan, we come back to you. And let's talk about, we alluded to this earlier in the program, but let's talk about the COVID-19 pandemic situation, right? And all of us have our individual experiences and trials and challenges. But I wanted to know from you, specifically in your experience, what have been some of the most difficult moments, the most trying moments during this entire period? What have you learned from this? What's your key learning from this? And if I don't want to put words in your mouth, right? But if it's made you a more astute entrepreneur, or helped in increasing your future mindedness or resilience, what have been some of these big takeaways and aha moments during this particular period?
Sure. Yeah, very interesting question. Yeah, so I think when this pandemic started, we really didn't know what to make of it, and I'm sure everyone here agrees, because I don't think anyone knew how this is going to pan out, right? And obviously, we are a startup where we work with a lot of big organizations, and a lot of their business is actually, at least from our usage of our software point of view, it was using our software, using our solution, and taking it to the retailers, and doing various activities. Now obviously, because of the pandemic, all of that stopped. And we really, from a business point of view, we really didn't know, what shape, this pandemic is going to take, how long is this going to last, and what is the impact that it is going to have on the, on the overall business. I still remember those first 2 or 3 months. I think actually no one knew, right? I mean, everyone was struggling.
Absolutely.
But, then, what we thought was that, there is, little to be gained by, trying to be reactive. Over the past 2 or 3 years, at least as a technology person, I wanted to redesign our platform. Technology keeps evolving. That is one of the things that is there in the software industry. Technology keeps evolving. So, when we started off applicate, we were using a set of technologies, and we had built our platform in a certain manner. So we really thought that, let's put our best people and let's redesign this platform, because anyway, that is the need of the hour. So we took a bunch of our best guys and started redesigning the platform. So that was one. The other, surprisingly, after two, and I say surprisingly because at that time no one anticipated this. After 2 or 3 months, what we saw was that a lot of companies actually started investing in digital transformation, right? I mean, making sure that irrespective of whether the offline business is there or not, they wanted to make sure that the software actually supports digital transactions. uh, any and it's not just big organizations, even the small organizations, the the local kirana guy, the grocery person, everyone wanted to make sure that they don't lose out on business because people are not coming to their shop and buying things. So I think that started off, I think 2 or 3 months after COVID. And I would say that really, buoyed us up. We hadn't anticipated that. So I would say the biggest, takeaway from COVID, and actually one of the biggest challenges I would say, was when we started, this journey 5 to 6 years back, was how to connect, retailers. Retailers are, they were not, a lot of them did not have smartphones. I'm talking about 2014. They didn't have
Mhm.
smartphones, they were not technologically savvy. I would say this pandemic has actually uh, made that journey a lot easier for us.
Accelerated that entire journey, right?
Exactly. It has accelerated that journey because everyone started using smartphone, to get connected and stuff like that, and that really helped us. And because we started this journey where we were bringing all our solutions together with this new platform. By the time we saw that the big organizations are ready to invest more into digital transformation, I think we were there. We really, over the past 2 years, have closed a lot of huge deals sitting in India, sitting in our homes actually. It is not possible without traveling to these organizations, showcasing our entire software, having different rounds of meetings. So I don't think that would have been possible, without this pandemic. So from that point of view, I think the biggest takeaway is obviously, as you pointed out, resilience. We, when we started off, we never thought that this pandemic is going to break us. That was not even at back of our mind. We knew that we were going to come out stronger, but how strong, that has really surprised even us. We are doing pretty well in terms of our globalization journey as well, in terms of our technology platform. A lot of big organizations are taking us global. They start with one country and they start scaling up in different countries. We are closing huge deals with big organizations sitting in India. So all of that has given us a lot of confidence. As a small company, you can only dream of these things, right? And these are very rewarding moments when all this starts happening and everything starts falling into place. We still have a very long way to go, but I think this has made us much more resilient, much more stronger, much more confident. Yeah.
Great. I mean, we always knew, I mean, we've known for a while that the world was flat, but now it's shrinking, it's becoming smaller, right? The ultimate dream of a global village is you're in your bedroom or in your home study, right? And you're able to reach out to and interact with and actually do business with anybody located anywhere in the world, right? I think the silver lining or the blessing in disguise for the pandemic is because even traditionally minded organizations which would have done things in their own way, in their own sweet time, have been compelled to fast forward their processes and fast forward their thinking in time, right? Which is good for future minded people like ourselves.
That's true. That's true.
Great. Nikhil, I'll come to you next. What's been your experience and top of the shelf learnings during this entire pandemic period?
A lot of our experiences were almost the same as what Madhusudan would have had. I think we started work from home even before the government announced the lockdown and everything. We realized that the situation is turning bad. So in March, it was a challenge to adapt to work from home. And by April, we knew that the business was going to take some hit with COVID. But what we did, obviously, you need to go back to the drawing board, look at what's happening. So we tried to analyze the data, who are the customers who are sticking with us, who are the customers who are increasing their usage with us, or who are the customers who have stopped payments or who are going on a downward trajectory. So we analyzed that and we realized that enterprise market is where we want to be at, right? And in there also we identified a very sweet spot, the very specific CPG industry, FMCG industry is where we want to be in the enterprise space. So we started targeting this very specific segment. And when it comes to the product, we also had a similar thought process that let's see what are going to be the immediate requirements of these enterprises. So obviously, at one point, we felt like maybe Kirana is going away because a lot of people are saying it's going to be all about hygiene now and Kirana is going to go away. But then maybe by May or June, we realized that Kirana is there to say we have to take part in the innovation cycle that's coming up at a very fast pace. We were engaging with the community, the business leaders, and we were hearing the same thing that we are trying to accelerate our digital transformation journey. And where we really gained a lot was just by focusing all of our resources, whether it in terms of the product innovation, marketing, sales, or customer service, customer support. By focusing all of them on a very narrow segment, I think we were able to gain new business very fast. I think we have added the highest ever revenue in our company's history in the last 1 year. And that's been possible because of this focus. If we were selling the old way, if we were building the platform the old way, pre-COVID way, maybe we would not have grown this fast. But it was, how you say it, a blessing in disguise. So we tried to take the learnings, we tried to unlearn a lot of things. I think that's been a theme today. So we had to unlearn a lot of things as a company also and learn a lot of new things. I think our global expansion plans got accelerated. Likewise, we are able to sell from here to companies sitting across the world. So that's been going really well for us so far. And I think our platform also evolved very fast in response to this pandemic. Yeah, the innovation, the changes have been across the board. And I think today we can say that we learned much more than we lost, or we gained much more than we lost.
Was there ever a time, because I can understand that everything was being accelerated, right? But because when the pandemic began and the first extended lockdown happened and then it got protracted again and extended again, nobody really knew how things were going to play out, right? And after that, when things got accelerated positively in your case, was there ever a time where you felt, because you were unprepared for that level and pace of change, overwhelmed? What do I do? Was that ever the case?
Not really, because see, if you are a founder, maybe you have more pressure on you. I was not a founder, and our management was very clear that look, whatever happens, we are going to stay together. We are not going to fire anyone. We are going to recover our business. I don't know whether they really know. They really knew at that time that the business would recover or not, but
And
the
thrive. Yeah.
yeah, the communication was that we are going to recover, we are going to make the changes, whatever. If we have to pivot, we'll do that. If we have to double down on what we are doing, we'll have to do that, and we'll do it. So there was never any worry like that, not even in the month of April or March.
Mhm.
And maybe one of the reasons for that, in addition to this management and communication, was that we always keep in touch with a lot of business leaders. And even they were saying, for example, we had a lot of deals which were pending in March. So some people had signed contract, but they had not made the payment. And even they were not saying we are not going to buy. Even they, in the worst case scenario, they would say, let's wait for 2 months. We are going to buy. The agreement is still on. So that also gave us some good signals
A lot
that
of confidence.
maybe, yeah, maybe not everything is that bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great. Puneet, I'll ask you the same question. What's been your experience through this entire, I would say, continuing pandemic period, because it's not over yet? And yeah, what have been your highlights?
I think we've been fortunate, in all honesty, because the uncertainty has hit everyone. Some of them unequally, others, it's been unfair to people. But for us as a business, we use the time to kind of sharpen our tools. Primarily because we operate in the space where we are talking about AR, we're talking about VR, we're talking about 3D, which was a good to have pre-pandemic. We anticipated 2021 to be the convergence year, 2022 to be the convergence year, where AR, VR, hardware would be available, people would be familiar and comfortable to use it on a day-to-day basis. So pre-pandemic, we would do a lot of educative conversations with customers, which kind of changed post during the pandemic. I wouldn't say post. I mean, we're still in the pandemic. Because we work with sectors that are very been around forever. We talk of automotive, century-old sector, aviation another 80 years, energy another 120, 130 years, oil and gas and so on. So these guys are unfazed. Right? They say people will need energy whether you're working out of home, you're working out of office. Travel has been severely affected, but auto kind of managed. So all of these guys don't make overnight decisions. So it did take them time to kind of understand technology, appreciate it, and now is when they are slowly, embracing new technology. They're kind of internalizing it. So pre-pandemic, we were, kind of pilots, kind of prove outs, this scan ad wagon we would do. But now it is more of, look, this is my problem, and how can you solve this? And we have a targeted thing. For us specifically, keeping the tech out of it, as a business, as individuals, our team was stuck in the curfew month. Most of them are not from Bangalore, so everyone was stuck in their rooms at home, away from family, which was a bit difficult for all of them, including me. We had to make sure everyone is safe and sound at home, well supplied, because the first few months, everything was closed. But post that, some of them traveled home, and we were able to normalize our working. But one of the key things we focused on was on our strengths, just to make sure that we keep chiseling away to build our platform, build our product, and grab opportunities from wherever they would come. And I think that was the key for us, to be able to manage during the pandemic and not only survive but thrive. So that's been our journey, and it still continues to evolve. So yeah, we're not out of it entirely.
Absolutely. And some of these traditional organizations, I'm going to take up the example of maybe energy, oil, and gas, because recently I had discussions and I ran a couple of leadership workshops for one of these companies. And what they were telling me is in a business as usual, pre pandemic kind of a scenario, the people would, there are multiple shifts, right? So in a particular oil rig, they'll go out there and be stationed for maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and that's about it. But because of the quarantine, because of the COVID restrictions, and even if you've been vaccinated, you still have to take a rapid antigen test and RT-PCR, etc., etc. That meant that at any point of time, instead of 3 or 4 weeks earlier, 12 weeks has now become the norm. So they'll be stuck out there for 3 times the earlier period. Now, that in turn means, right, that any little slightest problem in terms of a glitch in the machines or in the process or a kind of downtime is really amplified, not just in the business, but in the minds of those people who are getting stuck out there, right? That gets amplified as well. So I'm kind of drawing out this preamble to ask you, have you seen that, even in these traditional, being around big daddies, because of the exigencies of the pandemic, they've actually sharpened the need for products such as Fabric?
It has, and you're absolutely right. It is, for traveling to an offshore oil rig, continuing that example itself is a problem. You need to go through a safety training process for a week, 2 weeks, get certified before you sit on a chopper and fly in the middle of the ocean. It was crazy earlier. It's become even harder now. What people are trying to do, what the businesses are trying to do, is they are cognizant of these problems, and they are trying to implement not only a tool like Fabric, which is visualization, but also a lot of AI and a lot of intelligence tools that will help them manage their equipment better. So it is a combination of technologies that will eventually help them manage equipment either offshore on an oil rig or in the middle of the desert, manage extremely well with very little people presence and very little errors. Suddenly traveling to the field has become a big no-no because of not only RT-PCR, but all the other challenges have been amplified. So people are looking at how they can manage these equipment better, and that also extends to some of the equipment we have at home. For example, if our air conditioner breaks, we can't get anyone to come home and fix it. So it's kind
Yes,
of entering the retail realm also. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Great. So folks, we are coming towards the end of our program, but there's one final round of maybe steering and advice and insights that I would want from you. And that is for all of the aspiring or current startup founders and their teams who are tuning in and may watch this program later. As you all know, right? I mean, we've been part of the fortunate ones, the lucky ones, because we're working in tech and we're working in a particular sector where coincidentally demand has started to rise as a result of the pandemic, even more than the pre-pandemic scenario. But when we think of all of the sort of founders and small businesses that have been working in the MSME kind of a sector, more traditional based, also startups, which think of F&B startups and others, been really hit hard, right? Many of them have had to close shop, and many people were thinking that, okay, I'm going to begin a venture. They had put in some capital or made the plan and got some things done and prototype. And then last year, the pandemic happened. So they would have thought, okay, you know what? Let me defer it. I'll find out in 2021. Maybe I'll hit the market then. And right now, because there's so much of unsurety and unpredictability about the third wave, they're still kind of figuring out, should I test the water? Should I take the plunge or not? Right? So very briefly, again, Madhusudan, we'll start with you, and then Nikhil will end with Puneet. What would your advice be? What's your sort of prescription, projection? We're all trying to do a little bit of crystal ball gazing here without AI, maybe, right? What would be your advice to these people?
Uh, yeah, so you're right. I think we are fortunate, that the software industry really has, I think it's growing, and, it's growing by leaps and bounds. But some of the other sectors, especially, for example, travel or, food tech, in the past have not been so fortunate. But the way I see it is that I'm not sure if things will be as normal as pre-COVID. There'll still be especially for example, the way we are working. I think we are going to a hybrid model. I don't think it's going to be only work from home or only work from office. So it is going to be in a hybrid mode. I don't think travel is something that is going to go away. Once things are normal, I am sure a lot of people are raring to travel, to eat out. So I think my advice would be that think of the long term, and if you're able to sustain yourselves for the next 6 months to 1 year, the bounce back can actually be fierce. We've seen, especially in India, the way things have bounced back in real estate, even food tech, travel. You try booking some hotels in Goa, around the New Year. You will be surprised. I don't think we'll find anything. So a lot of people have already started doing that, and the past 2 years, I think a lot of people have saved a lot of money as well. So especially for the the small businesses, I would say that if you are able to sustain yourselves, spend wisely. But in the long term, I think the bounce back can surprise a lot of us on the positive side. Yeah.
Great. Nikhil?
What I would really advise people to do is to look at different sectors or different ventures, different opportunities, and identify what is there for the future, right? So if there are sectors which are coming up, if there are like, it can be, FMCG is something that is actually growing very fast, right? So that it doesn't necessarily have to be something modern only or something a new innovation, but it has to be something that is going to grow in future, or whether that is crypto, whether that is just software in general. So invest your time and energy and money into sectors or spaces which are coming up in the future. You have to innovate, you have to adapt, and if you innovate and adapt and take calculated risks, you can get ahead of the herd. So even if 100 people are failing in the same thing, but you have innovated enough, you have reinvented yourself enough, you are going to succeed. That's my key learning from this pandemic so far.
So it's keeping on, it's learning, unlearning, relearning, innovating, and not be constrained by the constraints or failures of others in
Yeah.
the sector,
I think,
right?
yeah, I would just add that this new innovation and growth cycle has just started. So see this not as a slump. This is just the beginning of a major growth cycle, and we are just lucky in a way to be here at this point of time.
Yes. At this point in time, at this point in
Yeah,
history, really, yeah.
yeah,
Because who knows? It might be another 50 or 100 years before this thing, this what we are going through right now happens again. Never know,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Great. Puneet, your advice, steer.
Well, it's a tough one, honestly. We have a lot of unknowns as a company, and we're still trying to figure it out. Kind of navigating through the fog. But my learnings have been very simple, right? Yeah, you just take the leap of faith. Take the leap of faith. You will fail 9 out of 10 times, but you will succeed the 10th time. But if you don't take the leap of faith, you will not try, you will not fail, and hence you will not succeed at all. So that's the crux of it, right? Just take the leap of faith. Believe in yourself. Try the hardest. The rest is not in your control, but you can at least make a good business plan, focus on the right sectors, do everything else that's in your control, and hope for the best. If not this startup, the next startup. If not the next, the one after that, right? It's just take a leap of faith and keep trying.
And this is very, very grounded, pragmatic, sage counsel. This is not some of the flighty, flamboyant things that you see startup founders throwing it out there and jazzing it up. This is really, really grounded advice, and I think that's great. And I just wanted to sort of paraphrase what you said right at the end. is that going forward, in the best case scenario, the challenge for a startup founder is not where the business is coming from, how do I connect to the customers, how do I scale up, but the challenge might actually be that things have accelerated so fast that I was not prepared enough to get this heightened scale of activity and growth. Am I ready for 3x, 5x, 10x growth in that short and that fast a time? Might actually be the challenge going forward in 2022. We don't know, right? Time will tell. But on that hopeful, positive note, we'll conclude this particular episode. Puneet, Nikhil, Madhusudan, it's been an absolute pleasure. I personally have learned, and I'm going to apply some of that when I go back to my fledgling little startup. And I'm sure the viewers have also benefited immensely from this engaging conversation. And viewers, one last little reminder that this is the second of a three-part series, and the concluding episode of the NIPP Retail Tech Challenge will be on the 29th of September. So I repeat, on the 29th of September, same time. And until we meet, take care. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.